The world does not follow the wisest voice. It follows the loudest. The weak mistake noise for power, mistaking volume for truth. And so the cunning rises while the silence is ignored, until the silence becomes unbearable. Machiavelli warned of this illusion, that those who shout gain influence, but those who wait in silence gain control. In this video, you'll see why noise seduces the masses and how silence can be weaponized against them. Subscribe now and tell me in the comments, are you the loud voice or the silent one preparing to strike? The noise has a deceptive power. In every gathering, the same law repeats itself. A handful raise their voices, and the rest fall silent. Not because wisdom has been revealed, but because noise itself seizes the room. Authority does not wait for proof. It forms in the air before logic has time to breathe. The mind follows sound before it follows truth. And the stage never belongs to the thoughtful. It belongs to the loud. Noise is a narcotic, and you are hooked deeper than you realize. You convince yourself that you judge by reason, that you are immune to spectacle. But when someone speaks with force, your attention tilts toward them like prey, turning to a predator's gaze. You don't even feel the surrender as it happens. Their words may be empty, their reasoning broken, yet the sheer weight of their intensity convinces you. And once it feels true, you treat it as reality. This is why the world rewards the loudest. People mistake confidence for competence, volume for power. You may sit in silence, certain that your restraint makes you stronger, but it does not. It makes you invisible. What is not seen, what is not heard, dies quietly in the background. Silence without calculation is not dignity. It is erasure. The wise often comfort themselves with the belief that merit will eventually reveal itself. But merit concealed is indistinguishable from weakness. Machiavelli warned that appearances outweigh reality. The men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. The world will not pierce your silence to uncover your worth. It will pass you by and bow to the one who shouts. You hesitate because you think noise is beneath you. You tell yourself that the truth should be enough. But in a world ruled by perception, truth whispered is less powerful than a lie shouted. People will rally to the one who fills the air, even if the substance is nothing more than smoke. Their noise drowns your silence, until even you begin to doubt the strength you once believed in. Do not mistake this as a call to endless shouting. That is the error of the fool. The tactic is sharper than that. Noise must be wielded deliberately, not constantly. There are moments where the room must feel your voice, crash like a blade striking steel, and others where your silence should suffocate until it grows unbearable. The difference between weakness and power is whether your silence is a choice or a cage. So recognize the truth. The loud command attention. The wise remain unseen. Influence does not reward the purest thought, but the most carefully projected sound. You will either take control of the air around you, or you will vanish inside it. Noise is not an accident. It is a weapon. And silence, without strategy, is nothing but surrender. If you understand this truth, leave your thoughts below, because the game of power does not wait for the silent. It only rewards those who know when to make the world hear them. Have you ever thought that why crowds obey? Volume over substance. Crowds do not rise for ideas. They rise for signals. The louder the signal, the stronger the pull, until sheer volume masquerades as strength. repetition becomes authority, and noise transforms into truth. In the collective mind, reason is the first casualty. Emotion takes the throne, and emotion obeys the voice that crushes all others. Substance is forgotten. Sound alone becomes the magnet. Crowds do not hunger for wisdom. They hunger for certainty. And the one who speaks with force, even when empty, feeds them exactly that. You may cling to the illusion that you are immune, that you cannot be moved by noise, but your body betrays you. Your head tilts toward the strongest voice. Your pulse quickens when conviction pierces the air. Instinct whispers that force is safety, that confidence must be truth. And by the time reason catches up, your judgment is already poisoned. You are following long before you realize you have submitted. You have seen this play out in politics, in offices, in families. The one who shouts longest is mistaken for the leader, while the silent observer is dismissed as timid or irrelevant. Authority is manufactured in the open air, and once the crowd accepts the illusion, it becomes reality. Machiavelli warned of this when he observed that men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. The crowd does not look for depth, it looks for theater, and the voice that dominates the theater rules the crowd. This is why wisdom, left unspoken, becomes invisible. Silence alone cannot compete with noise unless silence itself is turned into performance. To the untrained, silence is emptiness. To the strategist, silence is tension, mystery, and fear. But unless you wield it deliberately, your silence erases you. Crowds will not wait for your wisdom to surface. They will bow to the one who makes them feel certainty first. So you must decide, when the noise rises, will you allow yourself to be buried beneath it, or will you carve your own authority into the room? Sometimes the path is to amplify your message, to strike with rhythm and volume that crushes hesitation. Other times, the path is colder, to let the loud burn themselves out until silence exposes their emptiness. But one truth remains: neutrality is suicide. Influence demands. You choose between commanding the noise or weaponizing the silence. Anything less is surrender. Silence is the weapon of the patient strategist. In every arena of power, the same paradox endures. The loud ignite quickly, but their flame exposes them. Every word they throw into the air is a piece of themselves laid bare, their edges softened by constant display. They burn hot, then collapse under the weight of their own transparency. The silent remain an enigma. Their absence of noise becomes a haunting presence, because the human mind cannot endure uncertainty. What is unknown grows into suspicion, and suspicion breeds fear. Silence is not weakness. It is the hidden knife that waits behind the curtain. You feel the pressure to speak, to prove, to display. Yet every sentence you release betrays you. It leaks your insecurities, your impulses, your hungers. The loud believe they dominate the room, but in truth, they surrender their secrets. You, in silence, offer nothing. You erase the map and force others to wander blind. That blindness unsettles them. That unease is your power. The power of silence is not passive. It is not absence. It is presence sharpened into tension. When you withhold your words, people project their fears and doubts into the void you create. They imagine you stronger, colder, more certain than you may actually be. Machiavelli understood this dynamic, observing that the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Words can be twisted, remembered, and used against you. But silence leaves no trace, no contract to be broken, no evidence to betray. You have seen this before. In arguments, the one who stays silent forces the other to keep talking, to overexpose, to unravel their own defense. In negotiations, the silent presence pressures the other side to fill the emptiness with concessions. In social settings, silence makes people lean closer, desperate to interpret what you are not saying. Every second you refuse to break, the tension grows heavier until even the loudest voice feels uncertain in its strength. But silence must be wielded with calculation, not cowardice. Silence born from fear is transparent. It shows weakness. It makes others ignore you entirely. True strategic silence carries weight because it is intentional. It is chosen. You must let the room feel your restraint. Let the pause stretch long enough to disturb the rhythm of others. Then, when the silence has reached its peak, you release your words like a blade breaking the stillness. The impact is amplified precisely because it followed the void. This is the distinction you must master. To the wise, silence is a cloak, protection, concealment, and mystery. To the foolish, silence is a prison, a cage of inaction that erases them from relevance. The same tool that elevates one man to untouchable presence condemns another to obscurity. Your silence must be alive, not empty. It must serve a purpose, not excuse your fear. So when you enter a room, measure it carefully. Let others spend themselves in noise. Let them reveal every corner of their thoughts while you sit unreadable. And when the time comes, when their noise has reached exhaustion, break the silence with words sharpened to cut. The loud rise fast, but they fall just as quickly. The silent endure, because they know that words used sparingly carry more weight than words used endlessly. Silence, in the hands of the patient strategist, is not absence, it is dominance. There is seduction of certainty. In every society, one pattern repeats without variation. Truth is rarely the currency that governs human decisions. It is certainty that moves them. Faced with confusion, people grasp not for accuracy, but for assurance. They seek the comfort of confidence, even if it is misplaced. Those who project conviction, whether grounded in fact or falsehood, draw attention. Those who hesitate, even when correct, fade into irrelevance. You already know this instinct within yourself. When doubt surrounds you, the voice that speaks the loudest cuts through the chaos, not because it is right, but because it does not flinch. The weak cling to that sound, the way a drowning man clings to driftwood. They do not examine its strength. They only feel its promise. This is why the loud rise fast. They do not offer wisdom. They offer certainty, and certainty is addictive. The truth is darker. People do not crave knowledge. They crave direction. And when a voice provides it with unwavering conviction, the masses surrender their judgment. Machiavelli observed, "Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived." Certainty is the most elegant deception of all. Once it is projected without hesitation, doubt dies and power shifts to the one who dared to sound absolute. You have seen it unfold in meetings, in negotiations, in politics. Those who hesitate vanish from the stage. Their silence is mistaken for weakness. Their reflection mistaken for fear. Meanwhile, the confident liar thrives because the crowd prefers the illusion of clarity over the discomfort of uncertainty. The wise who calculate quietly are dismissed as fragile, even if they hold the only answers worth hearing. Truth whispered is drowned by conviction shouted. This is why your silence must never be timid. It must not resemble hesitation. To withhold words is power only when it unsettles, never when it seems uncertain. The same principle applies when you speak. Your tone, your posture, your timing, these must project the weight of inevitability. Certainty is not only sound, it is presence. It is the refusal to appear divided within yourself. The steady current of a mind that will not waver. If you hesitate, you hand away power. If you sound unsure, others will anchor themselves to a voice louder than yours. No matter how hollow that voice is, the world is ruled not by the most truthful, but by the most convincing. That is why volume becomes a weapon, and confidence its sharpened edge. You must learn to wield both. To survive in a world intoxicated by certainty, you cannot afford to appear fragile. The tactic is simple, though it demands discipline. Project certainty at all times. Whether you choose words or silence, deliver them as if no alternative exists. Speak with clarity that leaves no room for doubt. Remain silent with composure that denies weakness. When you radiate certainty, others unconsciously lean on you, mistaking your conviction for strength. And in their surrender, you gain control. How the fool appears powerful. Throughout history, perception has often outweighed reality. Those who lacked wisdom found ways to mask their ignorance through spectacle. Loudness became a form of armor, disguising weakness as strength and incompetence as authority. Crowds rarely evaluate substance. They respond to signals. Noise, repeated with conviction, reshapes itself into dominance. In this way, the fool who shouts is remembered, while the sage who whispers is forgotten. The brutal truth is this: the louder a man is, the more unshakable he appears. His ignorance does not repel the masses, it seduces them. When he speaks without hesitation, his confidence becomes indistinguishable from knowledge. You have seen this pattern before. The one who knows the least often speaks the most, and the crowd mistakes his recklessness for courage. It is not wisdom they seek, it is fearlessness, even when born of stupidity. This is the Machiavellian trap. People cannot distinguish between wisdom and volume, between truth and performance. When a fool projects certainty, he is elevated. When the wise remain cautious, they are dismissed. As Machiavelli observed, men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can touch. The crowd does not measure depth, it measures appearances, and appearances belong to the loud. You may imagine that reason will expose the fool, but it rarely does. Logic moves slowly, emotion moves instantly. The fool wins because he speaks to the primitive mind, the part that confuses arrogance or dominance. He raises his voice, and your instincts treat it as strength. He interrupts, and the crowd calls it authority. By the time you recognize the emptiness of his words, his influence has already taken hold. The wise man, by contrast, waits. He weighs his words. He withholds until certainty forms. Yet in the eyes of the many, this caution looks like weakness. His silence unsettles only the perceptive few. For the rest, it seems like hesitation. And hesitation, in a world intoxicated by certainty, is death. The louder fool takes the throne, not because he is fit to rule, but because he plays the role without restraint. You cannot afford to underestimate this pattern. To meet a fool with reason is to lose before the game begins. Reason requires attention, and attention has already been stolen by noise. The only counter is strategy. Either out-amplify the fool, seizing his weapon and turning it against him, or weaponize silence so skillfully that his own noise collapses under its emptiness. A fool cannot sustain the weight of his own volume forever. He eventually exposes himself. This is your advantage. You do not need to fight him on equal ground. You do not need to convince the masses with truth. You only need to control the perception of strength. Sometimes this means breaking your silence with a single strike that cuts deeper than all his noise combined. Other times, it means remaining quiet until his own voice becomes unbearable, forcing others to see the hollowness he hides. The fool appears powerful, but his power is fragile. It rests entirely on the crowd's willingness to mistake noise for strength. Once that illusion breaks, he crumbles. Your task is not to reason with him. It is to unmask him. Do not waste breath correcting his lies. Break the spell of his performance. And when the crowd finally sees the emptiness behind his noise, the fool's fall will be swift and your power will be undeniable. The balance between noise and silence. In every arena of power, extremes betray themselves. Noise without pause becomes background. Silence without interruption becomes absence. Both lose their edge when overused. Authority does not come from one or the other, but from the rhythm between them. The calculated alternation of voice and quiet creates tension, unpredictability, and fear. True presence is not in constant action, but in the control of timing. Power sharpens when it feels unpredictable. You know this instinctively. When someone never stops speaking, their words fade. When someone never speaks at all, they vanish from thought. But when a voice strikes after silence, it slices deeper than any constant noise. This is why your restraint unsettles others, and why your sudden eruption seizes the room. Both silence and sound are weapons. The difference lies in when you draw them. Silence disorients. It forces others to fill the void, to expose their insecurities in words you did not have to draw from them. You watch them grow restless, mistaking your quiet for weakness, until their own noise becomes self-betrayal. This is where patience turns into dominance. As Machiavelli wrote, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Fear is born not only in what you say, but in what you withhold. Noise dominates. It drowns hesitation, projects certainty, and commands obedience. When you finally break silence with force, your words carry the weight of inevitability. You cut through the air, and the crowd instinctively leans toward you. They do not hear logic. They feel finality. In that moment, it is not truth that persuades, but the rhythm of strength, the silence before, the explosion after. That sequence makes your presence undeniable. This is the balance. Too much noise, and you appear desperate, burning yourself out in endless displays. Too much silence, and you become invisible, mistaken for hesitation instead of strategy. But when you weave the two together, you create rhythm. You turn your presence into a weapon of tension, a force that others cannot predict or prepare for. They are never sure if your silence hides, surrender, or attack, and that uncertainty is your control. Your task is simple but ruthless. Map the room before you act. In hostile arenas, hold silence until the weak expose themselves. Their eagerness will reveal what they fear most. Then, when the silence has stretched thin, strike with words sharp enough to shatter the air. In decisive moments, Let noise flood the room with certainty, leaving no space for doubt. This oscillation, quiet patience, and sudden dominance is the architecture of lasting power. Noise and silence are not opposites. They are two edges of the same blade. Wield them carelessly, and they dull. Wield them with timing, and they carve authority into the minds of others. Master this balance, and you will no longer compete with fools who shout or sages who whisper. You will move beyond them, controlling not only the sound of the room, but its silence. And in that control lies the essence of power. If this truth cuts close, let it stay with you. Subscribe, and each lesson will sharpen the edge you already carry. Leave your thoughts below, your silence or your noise, and see how others react. Power, after all, is measured by the ripples you choose to create. Machiavelli's final truth: the theater of power. Every system of power follows the same hidden script. Influence does not flow to the most intelligent, nor to the most moral, but to the figure who controls the performance. The world itself functions as a stage where perception decides authority. Those who refuse to act, who cling to honesty without spectacle, vanish into obscurity. Those who understand the play, whether wise or foolish, step into command. Power is theater, and you are already on stage, whether you admit it or not. Every room you walk into is an audience. Every word you release is a performance. The mistake you make is believing the audience judges truth. They do not. They judge presence. They crave certainty, rhythm, contrast. This is why fools rise and sages fall. The fool knows he must perform, while the sage believes wisdom alone is enough. You have seen it. The incompetent leader who speaks with unshaken force, and the capable one who hides behind hesitation. One gathers followers, the other fades. Machiavelli revealed the principle long ago. Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. This is the trap you live in, the illusion of reality shaped not by depth, but by display. Noise and silence are not opposites. They are masks. To wear only one is to limit yourself. To refuse both is to erase yourself. But when you wear them with calculation, when you speak with thunder, then vanish into silence, you bend perception itself. You create tension, fear, authority. You no longer react to the stage. You become the stage. And once others play inside your rhythm, they are no longer free. The truth is merciless. Wisdom without performance is invisible. Noise without control is temporary. But the strategist who becomes both, loud when force is needed, silent when fear must grow, cannot be ignored. Influence belongs not to the purest mind, but to the sharpest actor. Remember this: survival will never reward the quiet sage or the noisy fool. It will reward the one who turns power into theater and theater into control. And if this truth has struck you, leave your thoughts below. If you want more of Machiavelli's secrets to sharpen your own performance, subscribe, because the stage of power is never empty, and your role in it has already begun.